I want you to picture the scenario. It's draft day, and you're a player waiting anxiously for that phone call to arrive from one of the general managers, letting you know that you are now officially a member of their team, and you're officially going to be a player in the National Football League. You're watching the draft on TV, you're on the edge of your seat, with each second that passes feeling like hours, and finally, you get that call. You get the notice that a team is interested in you, and they're going to take you with their next pick. They're about to be on the clock. They give you a heads-up call to let you know that they're ready to take you when it's their turn, and you get all excited. You picture yourself playing in that market for that team and that coach. You let your family know, and you're on cloud nine. The wait is about to be over. They tell you that they'll call you back in a couple of minutes when it's their turn to pick, and that if you haven't been taken yet, you're going to be the pick, and you're going to play for them at the next level. Then, they get on the clock, and you're expecting that return phone call and to see your name on TV, and then nothing happens. The team that said they were going to take you winds up never calling you back, winds up ghosting you, and winds up taking someone else. And this isn't a prank call or anything along those lines, all of what happened with Shedeur Sanders and the Atlanta Falcons at the 2025 NFL Draft. This isn't a prospective call that you make on the third day to an undrafted free agent, where you say up front that you want them to come to your team as an undrafted free agent if they haven't been taken yet. This is a team flat out telling you, in no uncertain terms, that you are going to be drafted by them with their next pick in a couple of minutes. And that pick never happens. You were lied to. You were duped. You were deceived. Well, I bring that up because the man you've been watching this entire time is Detroit Lions defensive tackle Jerry Ball. And the story of how he got drafted by the Lions is one of deception and scummy behavior by, oddly enough, a team in their own division. And even if I didn't give away anything in the title or the thumbnail or anything like that, if I said that an NFC Central team in the late 80s pulled off a really scummy move regarding a draft prospect, and I gave you one guess to figure out what NFC Central team it was, it wouldn't be that much of a mystery. Because of course it was Hugh Culverhouse, maybe the worst stoner of all time, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because in 1987, the Bucs were this close to drafting Ball, and more than 4 decades later, this story about a team lying to a young man deserves a deep dive today. Because this is the story behind one of the biggest draft controversies in the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the story of how they didn't wind up with Jerry Ball. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping up the video, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the time that Jerry Ball was not the life of the ball. But before I get into what exactly the Buccaneers decided to do with this man right here, we need some context to understand who Jerry Ball was and how good of a player he was coming out of college. To say that Ball was an absolute beast up the middle would be putting it lightly. If you needed someone who could stuff the run, Ball was your man. If you needed someone who could rush the passer and provide good pressure on the interior of the defensive line, Ball was your man. Ball was so good that despite being a nose tackle, he ended his career at SMU with 17 sacks. Not only does this rank inside the top 10 all-time today in school history, but by the time he finished playing with the Mustangs in 1986, it ranks second in program history. Of course, things went downhill for SMU after that 1986 season, but that's neither here nor there. In 1984, SMU had one of the best defenses in the nation, ranking inside the top 20 in points allowed, and Ball played a big part in that, as he led the team in every category imaginable, including tackles, tackles for a loss, forced fumbles, and sacks, even ending the year with a whopping 15 tackles for a loss, or more than one per game. SMU finished the 1984 season as co-champions of the Southwest Conference and as a top 10 team in the nation, and the play of Jerry Ball was a big reason why. And after he followed that 1984 season with a team-high 7 sacks in 1985 and a team-high 4 sacks in 1986, meaning that he led the team in sacks in 3 consecutive years, everyone knew that Ball was going to be a highly touted prospect and was going to make an immediate impact on someone's defensive line, and was going to go relatively high in the draft. And one of the teams supposedly interested in Ball, that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were coming off of an abysmal season in 1986, where they were 2-14, where they lost their final 7 games, and where nothing went right for them at all. I would say it was their worst season in franchise history, and for just about every other franchise, it would be. But this is Hugh Culverhouse we're talking about. The 1976 season exists as well. 86 was just a blip on the radar. They sucked that much under him. Still, the Bucs were, nonetheless, a joke in 1986, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where they ranked dead last in points allowed, allowing close to 30 points per game, dead last in yards allowed, dead last in rushing yards allowed, and dead last in yards per carry allowed, allowing an astonishingly high 4.7 yards per carry at a time when the league-wide average was under 4 yards a carry. This man right here, Jerry Ball, was known as a run stuffer and as someone who could clog up lanes easily. And if the Bucs were going to improve their defense, then Ball seemed like a logical fit for the team if he slipped to the second round. Sure enough, the Buccaneers liked what they saw in the man he'd been watching this entire time, Jerry Ball. And the Buccaneers liked him so much that when the second round rolled around, the Buccaneers called him up and said that they were about to draft him. Tampa Bay had the 36th pick in the draft. They actually had 3 picks in the second round, including pick 50 and pick 51. But based on everything that was reported on, including Ball's own recollection of the event in the immediate aftermath, we know that they wanted to take him with pick number 36 and make him the 3rd defensive tackle off the board. Hugh Culverhouse and the organization told him that they were about to make him a Buccaneer when it was time for them to get on the clock in a couple of moments, assuming no one had taken him by that point. So they told him to just stay by the phone, don't go anywhere, and we're going to get you down to Tampa and make you a Buccaneer. If it seems a bit odd that a player would get called by a team before he get drafted by them to let them know that they were going to take him if he was still there, it's not entirely crazy to think about just to make sure that they're around the phone, especially back then when information didn't travel as fast and you wanted to make sure that nothing happened to them or that they were still alive. Ball was waiting for that second call from the Bucs. The organization said it was going to be approximately 10 minutes until they were on the clock and they'd take him. And as you might have been able to guess by these highlights, that never happened. Not because the Lions had a higher pick than the Bucs and decided to leapfrog them, but rather because the Buccaneers just straight up ghosted him. The Bucs never called back, and they wound up drafting someone else. The Buccaneers told Ball, "Congratulations, we really like you, and we're ready to make you a Buccaneer," only to them never make him a Buccaneer. If there's anything worse at the NFL draft than waiting a long time for your name to be called, it's waiting a long time for your name to be called when you thought you'd be gone by this spot, especially when you were explicitly told that you'd be gone by this spot, and you start seeing the money slipping away from you with each passing spot, because a contract at pick number 36 is definitely not the contract you're going to get in the 3rd round. As Ball said, they said they were going to take me. They said, "Stay by the phone. We're going to call you back in 10 minutes." I wasn't disappointed by them not drafting me. I was disappointed because they raised a lot of emotions in me and my family. After that, I said, I hope Tampa doesn't get another chance to draft me. I didn't want to play bear. Tampa got 3 more chances to draft him, as they had pick 50, pick 51, and pick 57. And all 3 times, they passed on him, either completely oblivious to the fact that they literally called up Ball and told him he was going to get drafted by them in a couple of minutes, or because Hugh Culverhouse had no regard for anyone but himself. Eventually, the Lions stopped his slide and decided to take him for real at pick number 63, 27 spots later than where the Bucs initially said they were going to take him. But the damage had been done. Ball, while happy that he was a Lion and happy that he was reunited with defensive end Reggie Rogers, who he became close friends with during the pre-draft process, was livid with the Bucs, and understandably so, for getting his hopes up and leaving him out to dry, and was livid at the pain that they put not only him through, but his family through. As Ball would later recall, before the season started, Tampa Bay called me before their pick in the 2nd round, pick number 36, and said, "How would you like to be a Buccaneer?" They said to stay by the phone. I watched TV and waited for them to call my name. When they didn't, it upset me and my family. Then Detroit picked me. I prefer to play there anyway. Of course, I'd enjoy playing for anybody that picked me, but I feel like I can get more out of Detroit, going to the playoffs and all, quicker than I can at Tampa Bay. He was not wrong about that, I'll tell you that much. And while you could say he was still holding a grudge about what the Buccaneers did to him, I'd probably be the same way, and don't blame him one bit for that. Now, to be fair to the Buccaneers, despite this incredibly scummy behavior, they ended up drafting a darn good player with that pick in the 2nd round, as the man that they drafted, this man right here, Ricky Reynolds, was one of the few Buccaneer players back then who didn't outright suck. In fact, he was quite good. Reynolds doesn't exactly have the accolades like Pro Bowls or All-Pros, partly because he was on the Buccaneers, who were absolutely terrible, and not many people cared about the Bucs or watched the Bucs. However, Reynolds was one of the few bright spots on those teams in the late 80s and the early 90s, as he was a shutdown cover corner who frequently appears on lists of the greatest Bucs of all time. He started 103 games for the team over 7 seasons, and was so good that Andre Rison, one of the best receivers of the 1990s, and maybe one of the best receivers of all time, said that Reynolds was one of the best cornerbacks he had ever faced, which is strong praise from Rison, seeing as Rison was a notorious trash talker who never liked to praise anyone. Reynolds finished his Bucs career with 17 interceptions, and was 3rd all-time in picks by the time his career with the team ended. Anytime you start over 100 games for the team and finish 3rd all-time in a major statistical category for that team, all while being regarded as one of the best in the league, you clearly did something right. So I can't say that this lie, as scummy as it was, didn't work out for Tampa, because Reynolds was a really good cornerback who made plays and earned the respect of opposing wideouts around the league. But Jerry Ball was, well, Jerry Ball. This man right here was dominant. Absolutely dominant. Maybe the Bucs don't regret drafting Reynolds over Ball, but the Bucs had 2 other picks in the 2nd round before Ball went off the board in round 3, where they chose Miami linebacker Winston Moss and Mississippi State running back Don Smith. And I'm 100% confident that if they could do those picks over and make right by Ball and live up to their promise, even if it was a bit delayed, that they would do it, especially since Moss and Smith did nothing with the Bucs. Side note, the 3rd round pick that the Buccaneers had before the Lions were drafting was wide receiver Mark Carrier. They would not redo that. He was really good. So that was a base hit for sure, an extra base hit. But Smith and Moss, not so much. Ball was miles better than either of those guys. Ball played 13 seasons in the NFL, and in his first 6 seasons with the Lions, made it to 3 Pro Bowls, and received AP First-Team All-Pro honors during the 1991 season when the Lions made it to the NFC Championship for the first time since the merger. He was named an AP Second-Team All-Pro in 1990, and while Ball was often incredibly outspoken about the Lions and their front office mismanagement, even resulting in him requesting a trade after the 1992 season and leaving the team on somewhat rocky terms, when he was in his prime around the turn of the decade, the man truly was one of the most dominant interior defensive linemen in the NFL. Not only that, but Ball ended up playing 191 games in his NFL career across 13 seasons, making him the only defensive lineman in that class to play that many games while being named an AP First-Team All-Pro at least one time. While the Buccaneers pulling a scummy move didn't necessarily hurt them at the end of the day, it definitely benefited their division rival, because I'm sure the Lions were not complaining with how that pick turned out, especially since they whiffed on almost everyone else that they drafted that year. This wasn't the first time that the Buccaneers, under the guidance of Hugh Culverhouse, decided to screw over a college kid. Heck, 1 year before, they infamously screwed running back Bo Jackson out of his college baseball eligibility, then drafted him after Jackson had every reason to reject them. To say that Culverhouse was a dirty owner would be putting it lightly. And while you probably know about the Bo Jackson story, this one was probably one that you didn't know about before clicking on this video. Having said that, if there's any front office executives watching this video, I really shouldn't have to say this because it's just common courtesy and common sense and should go without saying. But don't call up a player and tell him that you're going to be drafted by them and then leave them hanging and not draft them, especially if you're keeping your pick. It was scummy to do back in 1987, and it'd be scummy to do 4 decades later. Because on the day of the NFL draft in 1987, when it came to how they handle his draft status, it's fair to say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers dropped the ball on Jerry Ball. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name of the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.